Hey Lisa, welcome. And you started here in a second. See? Okay, we are live. We're live on Facebook. We are live in the webinar, 8 o'clock Eastern. Welcome. I'm just going to let everyone kind of get in here. The text message goes out, making sure we can get some people in. Okay, good evening or afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. Welcome. Gonna have a real good one. So hopefully you all stay tuned. We are actually dual broadcasting this right now. We're live on Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook, let us know you're here. Give us a like, drop us a comment. The comment should be what AP history course you're excited to learn about, parents. And on webinar, we have a Zoom webinar going on. Whoops, that was my microphone. And if you're on webinar with us, the Q&A is going to be open all Zoom. So stick with us. And if you have questions that anything pops up, we'll be talking about a lot, be covering a lot tonight for you parents out there. Please feel free to drop us a question. But yeah, we want as many parents to see this information as they can tonight. It's going to be a free information night. We're going to cover a lot. I want to talk a little bit about the background first, and I'll set that up. But we're gonna dive right in right now. So if you're ready, I'm ready. I'm excited. So this is for parents of student athletes enrolled in AP history. Maybe your student has started this year, or maybe they're about to start, or they're going to start, at the end of the month, or in some schools after Labor Day. Doesn't matter. It's for all of you. First question off the bat, like, do I have to have a student athlete to watch this webinar? No, but we are athletes in AP history. We specifically help student athletes earn college credit on their AP exam. And the whole idea of this training, the whole purpose of why we're going live tonight and going to talk, probably one of the longer live streams that we've done, is this concept of earning college credit with the vehicle of AP history, the AP history exam specifically, without sacrificing the sport your student athlete loves. Because we all know a lot of time goes into practicing and playing the sports that they love, which then obviously we all have limited time. Not as much time might go into studying for the AP exam, but that's okay, because you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours a day or weeks studying for this exam or getting ready for this exam, you can earn a top score without memorizing facts and without studying for hours. And we're going to kind of break that all down tonight. And I can kind of give you some background because we have a lot of people joining us lately in the group that are new the last couple of weeks. Welcome. And maybe we have some longtime viewers too. Just kind of give you a background of what we are, what we do. My name is Joe Sebastian. I do have a doctorate in educational leadership, but more on that later. But this company, it's actually a branch of my actual tutoring company called Supported Tutoring. But we've gone from 10 to 15 students a year privately tutoring with their AP exams every spring. And now we've worked with over 150 students from across the nation with AP history, geography, and government. So I haven't forgot about you, any people out there watching geography or government. We're going to more stick to AP history tonight because of how we created this webinar. But if you have specific questions about those two courses, we do offer support for that as well. And we do offer free trainings for that as well. But we're going to stick with history. My background is social studies. I have taught all these courses, so I'm certified to teach them. We do eventually want to offer more support for other AP classes, but we stick with these 5 for right now. Our students have consistently scored 4s and 5s on their exam. And that's something that the 25% of the nation is only able to do every year. And on average, students who work with us end up saving over $4,000 in college tuition per class and earning over 3 credits to a school of their dreams. So pretty cool. And so, just to show you a variety of students who we work with, I'm actually going backwards now to when I was a teacher. And it's all part of this backstory. It'll kind of make sense here in a couple of minutes, but bear with me. We're going to get to the good stuff. I want to just give you a couple case studies. Nabila, she was an 11th grader when I started teaching her. She's actually been on the channel a couple times. Her testimonial is really testament to just the true magnitude of stringing a bunch of college level classes together to leverage it to get into a great university and earn credits. She was taking multiple advanced level college courses, with the caveat being it's IB, not AP, but I'm going to show you how it's kind of interchangeable. And she was heavily involved in extracurriculars. She's a great student. She ended up earning 30 credits to Columbia University. Let's say that again, 30 credits to Columbia University. She had so many credits, she actually was able to take a gap year. She entered as a sophomore. And during that year, instead of going in as a sophomore, she took a gap year. She was able to travel the world. She went back to her home country of Afghanistan. She taught English there. And probably the most impactful thing with the economy where it is, she saved over $65,000 in tuition, all with advanced high school classes and those exams. And it's not just her. Another student that I taught, had the pleasure of teaching, Natasha. She is also a great reference of how she not only earned college credit to Syracuse, but she also is still employing the writing strategies that we teach in her career as a journalist and producer. She's up in Buffalo right now. Some highlights from this previous couple years. Christian and Lorenzo, both soccer players, both from California, 2 different areas, both have dreams of going into UCLA. They're aligning how they're going to go to UCLA together. Their scores on their AP European history for Christian and AP US history for Lorenzo, they earned a high enough score to each get 8 credits to UCLA. 8 credits to a state school that is very hard to get into is awesome to have in your back pocket. I interviewed both of them. Both of their testimonials are on, both their videos are on our Facebook page. Or how about Leanna and Laura? Leanna was a US student. Laura was an AP World student. They both earned high enough scores to earn college credit as well. And there was those 2 first boys were soccer players. We work with a ton of different athletes. Izzy, a hockey player from Minnesota, Samantha, a volleyball player from California, both scoring high enough to earn college credit, banking college credit to the schools that they want to go to. And really cool story. This is actually carryover from private tutoring, but I actually had the pleasure of working with twin boys from Minnesota for 2 years in a row. Both scored 5s in AP Government last year, and then did it again in AP World this past year. Quentin is actually a travel hockey player, crazy busy, but was able to use the writing strategies we teach in test prep and deploy them and get incredible results. And not just those courses, but again, AP Government, AP Geography, I don't want to leave you out. We actually had 3 masterclass students working with us for AP Human Geography, so I don't know if you could see that, but we went 3 for 3 for the full year masterclass students, scoring 5s in AP Human Geography. One was an athlete, one was a former IB student who didn't have much experience in multiple choice questions. Another one was from the Midwest who just wanted some good, solid strategies. We're hoping to have some recordings of their testimonials on here, but awesome job by those 3 ladies scoring 5s. And then I actually had this parent reach out to me of Audi, the student who scored a 5 on his AP Government this year. He's actually in Korea. She gave us a testimonial, pretty awesome. She was really excited that he scored a 5 in AP Government in the strategies that we use. So what are we going to do tonight, right? That's all well and good. You weren't here for testimonials. Just want to give you a background of the diverse set of students that we have helped and how really it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Everyone has something to learn and everyone definitely has something to gain. So tonight, 3 things. We're going to talk about how you are going to learn about how to score a 4 or 5 on the AP History exam. This is a top 25% score. Okay, and everyone shoots for a 5, and we love 5s, but 4 is almost universally accepted outside of a few Ivy League schools, in Stanford and MIT. We're also going to talk about how to study effectively without spending countless hours memorizing facts. And then we're going to talk about how to apply the writing strategies, and really that's one of our core principles, to consistently earn the most points on the FRQs, and for new parents, that is free response questions. And for AP History, that is worth 60% of your score. Okay, so I'm just trying to see who dropped a comment here. So hold on one second, making sure that I can get everyone's questions answered. Oh yeah, Susan, you are in the right place for the webinar. If you're working on it, you're good. Okay, now you're on the Facebook. If you want the link to the Zoom webinar, you just have to go into the other link and sign in. But and I know I'm taking questions all the time. I'm going to kind of get through this. So drop questions as they come in. I will answer them, but I will dedicate a chunk of time at the end for bonus Q&A. Ask me anything. Okay. So I want to start off with, I have a confession to make. Ready? I almost quit teaching. Back in 2012, the summer of 2012, I just finished up my 2nd year teaching at a very difficult school in inner city DC. It wasn't necessarily that the students were tough. It was that there was very little support, and structurally the school wasn't really solid on foundations, but worked with some great teachers, did get some good results with our students, but I really wasn't happy with what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was making the impact. So I almost quit, but I was actually hired and saved by a baseball coach. That's not him. That's going to be my colleague, Chuck. But the way in was I sent out my resume and I kind of got hired as a JV head coach almost preemptively to getting hired as a history teacher. I know the stereotype social studies teacher coach. I'm not one of them, but I was hired at Fairfax County Schools back in 2012, and they asked me if I could teach IB History of the Americas. I had no idea what IB was, never taught it before, didn't know how I could deliver. So, but coming into a unique situation, their pass rate on paper 3, IB exams are structurally differently, but this would be closest to an AP US history course. But it's a 2-year course extending into 20th century topics. But on that paper, specifically for what we taught, the pass rate was 20%. It was abysmal. And that would be like 20% of students only earning passing scores on the AP US history exam. So what do? Well, from 2012 to 2016, I became very coachable. I was a colleague. So you saw Chuck was my other senior colleague. He took the lead on this course. We worked together very collaboratively. We first obviously were acquaintances and colleagues. He became somewhat of a mentor to me. and eventually we're still friends today. We focused on teaching quality writing strategies. Believe it or not, it was a writing course inside a history course. We actually had to teach how to write argumentative essays consistently. And we developed some common practices that became universal. And the results were we saw our pass rate go from a 20% pass rate on that same paper to a 90% pass rate. Nabila and Natasha benefited from those strategies that we mentioned earlier. And so what we found out was our students were earning tons of college credit. They were earning their IB diplomas. And it was so impactful that we were able actually to get it adopted into our Building Y literacy initiative. So our framework became what the school used, not the other way around. And then, so all well and good, and then I left. Why? So I left in 2016. Technically, I didn't leave. I moved back to Pittsburgh with my new family. That, if you know anything about the DC area, is extremely expensive. We were a new family, my wife and I, with our oldest daughter there in the middle, Catherine. Still it's on a teaching salary, still trying to figure things out. We moved back to Pittsburgh, where I'm from, where my parents are from, to a little bit of support. So now I have 3 beautiful daughters. So we're still here in Pittsburgh. But I left teaching from Fairfax in 2016, and I actually left teaching altogether in 2017 as a classroom teacher, and I moved into high school administration. So more on that in a second. But I also forgot to mention, I also coached during that time. I have been an actual football and baseball coach longer than I was a teacher. Love making those positive connections with students. These are some photos from back in the day. I had the pleasure of teaching a 14U USA football team, coaching that. But where am I going with this, right? The story connects is I actually coached a travel baseball team when I was at Fairfax to some kids from very affluent schools inside and outside the county. And so I'm teaching IB history across the county to students. Now, mind you, we have worked with students year round, practicing writing, teaching writing, improving writing. And these kids are AP students. And now it's April, the baseball season is over, and we're traveling baseball players. And I start talking to them. I'm like, hey, where are you guys at with your upcoming AP tests, which are in May? And I asked them about DBQs and LEQs, and they had no idea. I said, how do you have no idea? That's like the main part of the test. Like, yeah, the teachers just assume we know how to write them. They got 0 practice in their writing, 0. And I was pretty shocked. I formed a little study group with them to help them. And that was kind of probably the light bulb of like, well, there's something here. Is this a problem nationwide? Turns out it is, because the conversations I've had in the last couple of years. So that was back in 2015, 2014. Fast forward to 2020. Now, I've been an administrator for a couple of years. We're in the midst of the pandemic. And if you were around education, you know it was rough. I actually missed positive interactions with students. So I got back into teaching as a tutor during this time, an online tutor for a company out of Minnesota. Still kind of do some tutoring for them to this day. But where this story kind of turns into what are we doing here tonight? Like, why is this? Is that I was challenged. I had about 15 students that I was tutoring for them to get very high scores. Now, mind you, I just got back into tutoring, just got back into teaching, and there was a little bonus involved. So I was questioning here the director of like, well, how am I going to prove this? What am I going to do? You're asking me to do a lot, and I can deliver, but like, where are we at here? So it was a very minuscule amount of money, but I ended up delivering. I ended up getting 14 out of 15 students, helping them get 4s out of 5s. One student did get a 3, but that was enough to get the bonus. But what I developed in that time was I had a proprietary system previously built on my solid teaching background of teaching writing. So I used that for test prep, and I got the result. The next year I did the same thing, and I got results. So I'm 2 years into this now, and I realized something, that I was never going to actually be able to make the impact that I wanted to, because I think all kids should know how to write. Truly believe this. A little bit background not mentioned. I was able to present at the American Historical Association a couple times on the value of literacy-based assessments in the social studies classroom. So I kind of formed my own thing, because I had to rely on a tutoring company to sell the value of why AP courses are important and rely on them for students every year. So I wanted something more. So in December of 21, I formed a company called Supported Tutoring. It's still the overarching company of Athletes in AP History. But in September of 22, last September, we formed this Facebook group, and we have grown to over 1,600 members today. So this is supposed to be the group where parents and students can collaborate, get resources, and ask questions and get help that is needed, because there is a big gap here, and we're going to kind of go into that in a minute. So once again, long background, welcome. Glad to have you here. You're part of a community that I am only going to take to scale and grow and grow and grow, because each and every year there are so many students that take these exams and don't do well on it. So that gets us to our mission. Our mission is to help student athletes and their parents understand how to leverage their AP exams for free college credit. Huge, right? There is a difference between passing and failing, obviously, but like the ramifications are gigantic. So our personal goal, my personal goal this year, I had 43 students last year. Our personal goal is to help 100 students earn college credit with their AP exams every year. Once we get there, we'll increase that. But we want to get to 100 because that's a nice little number. So set the agenda. That was all the background. Thank you for staying with us. I promise you it's going to be worth it. We're going to keep going. But let's talk about what we're going to do here. Okay? So first thing, I'm going to share with you the 3 pillars of our core process that help student athletes score 4s and 5s. There's a lot more to this process. We do a ton, but obviously we don't have all night. But I'm going to share with you the core pillars so you can at least start thinking of how to help your students this year. Okay. And we're going to provide a ton of free training on Mondays, writing trainings and stuff like that specifically, but I'm going to give you the overview and then we'll kind of go deeper in later sessions. Sound good? Okay. So we'll cover that. Second, I'm going to give you the invitation. I'm going to give you the invitation for your students to work with us and implement our system to make their year worry-free. Okay, that's my one ask, is that we're going to have, it's going to be an invitation. There's no obligation. There's nothing here to sell, no obligation to buy. It's just to have a conversation if you're interested. But there will be part of that, just FYI, because we do coach students privately. We're coaching them right now. So if this sounds good, we can have that conversation. If not, take as much free stuff from me as possible. And then third, we're going to have a Q&A at the end. I'll stay on for up to 30 minutes. You can ask me anything related to college courses, college credit, AP courses, and so on and so forth. Sound good? Sound good, everybody on Zoom? Stick with me. Give me a thumbs up. Anyone on, on Facebook Live, drop me comments. We're going to get into it. So it's important to know that context before we start, because it's like, who are you? And you have a Facebook group, like, why should I listen to you? So just to kind of set the stage. So here we go. So let's start with some cold hard truths. Okay. AP students, you're taking AP class. You are a high achieving student. You're in a college level course. That is definitely right. That's true. Students that are low achieving usually don't take AP courses or don't score well. So we can assume this is a truth. Most students in AP courses are supposed to be there. They're high achieving, they're college bound. And as an AP student, you have a golden opportunity to earn free college credit each and every AP course. Okay. Before I get into that, free college credit only comes from the AP exam. Yes, it looks great on a transcript, but that doesn't really save you money. And if you've been following anything about college, you know that tuition fees only go up year after year. It is outpacing inflation by like some 1,200%. The cost of college is insane, and it's only going to go up more and more every year. So total cost of degree, there is a typo here. This is not my graph. Pulled this off the internet. It should be 173 for total cost of degree, but like an in-state tuition that used to be affordable is really not. I don't know why the discrepancy of 26,000 when the total cost of degree, a nonprofit. So this is a little confusing, but the point is college costs a lot. Shocker. And so if you actually you pulled everything together, The average cost of 3 college credits is around $4,000. Excuse me, that it's usually more. This is a little bit better graph from the NCES. The top one is the four-year institution. There's a bottom chart at the bottom. So we're just going to assume that your students go into a four-year institution, and all 4 years, off campus, on campus. So let's assume on campus, $1,100. Nonprofit, so that's 4 year. In states, a little less, $900. Nonprofit, $1,800. For profit, $1,100. Insane, right? So there is a tool. It's going to be our first tool of the night here. Let me make sure I pull it up for you. If you're watching on Facebook Live, can you drop, if you want this free tool from College Board, I'm dropping a link. Please say college on comments and give me a thumb. I'll put this here. Thumbs up, people on Zoom. Let me pull it up here. If you want this free tool, it's really, really cool, really impactful. I'm going to put this right here. And let's see if I can message everybody. Sorry. Here we go. Chat, everyone. Dropping this first of many links here tonight. So this is the AP College Board search, free for anyone to use. Very, very powerful tool. So basically, as you find the credit, you find the course, you could do a couple different ways. You could either find the ideal college, or you could find the AP course that your student is taking, search it, and then kind of go in deeper. So the credits are not always published. Ivy League is very tricky. They guard those like it's a secret. So the tool is only good as the tool is, but it's pretty good to make the point. So I'm going to show you some examples here in a minute, but the key thing I'm going to tell you is when you find the course, don't just take the credit for what it is, click on it to see what each school offers. So I actually did that. And in the interest of athletes in AP history, I went with the 2022 final college football playoff rankings. So anyone that's watching that's from Alabama, I am so sorry that we are going to put the SEC school Georgia in front, but I will promise you I'll talk about Alabama. And if you want to see any of the other schools, I can do a quick search, for example. Let me know if there's a school you want to see done live in the comments or on the Q&A in Zoom, and I'll do it. I just want to show you the power of this tool and knowing the parameters of like, hey, golden opportunity for my kid. And maybe they don't want to go to any schools, but this tool is great for everything. They have a lot of data in it. So looking at Georgia, Michigan, and TCU, the top 3 schools here out of before Ohio State. And we're going to use AP US history as an example. So if your student got a score of a 4 in any of those 3 universities, they would have at Georgia earn 3 credits, at Michigan earn 4 credits, and at TCU earn 6 credits. Really cool, really powerful there. Ohio State did have earned 6 credits with 3. There's a caveat to that. And so what does that mean? Well, every school is different and it allocates the credits differently. But the biggest thing I hear from a lot of our parents is, oh, my kid is going to be going into engineering. My kid's going to go into medicine, whatever. Well, guess what? The colleges make money. They're in business to make money despite their profit versus nonprofit status. But most colleges, there's a select few programs, but they obviously make you go through the undergrad programs before declaring a major. A lot of those undergrad programs are very similar to basic high school credits. They're going to have to take some required history, some US history, some world history, maybe an English class, maybe a math class, and so on and so forth. Especially if you're not going to be a humanities major, you got to take these 1-off, 2-off credits. For US history, it's sometimes in state schools divided between pre-Civil War, post-Civil War. You have to take them. So without really going into TCU or Ohio State, I'm assuming that those 6 credits come from 2 classes. So really earning a 4 or a 3 respectively at TCU or Ohio State on AP US history knocks out 2 classes for you. That's awesome, right? You could save money, save time, do something different. start your major earlier. Options are nice. So let's talk about the big one out there, Harvard. No disrespect to any of our Ivy Leaguers watching, but Harvard is a good example because I broke down the math earlier. Ivy League schools are unique. If you want to go to Harvard, you have to get fives. And how Harvard recognizes it is, and most Ivy League schools are like this, they won't just accept a one-off 5. For Harvard, you have to send them a minimum of 4 5s. But what's really cool is a 5 at Harvard equals 8 credits. And 1 credit is worth $1,500. This is from like 2022, so it's probably more now. And 8 credits at Harvard is $12,000. So literally getting the minimum 4 APs times 8 would be $49,664 at Harvard. So you can see how Nebula was able to get $65,000 from Columbia pretty quickly. She earned it, but it was with a couple scores. So a little bit of audience participation. Raise your hands on Zoom. Say me in the comments. Who wants their student athlete or student, I misspelled student athlete, to walk into college with 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, or even 30 credits? Who here wouldn't want that? Let me know. Say me in the comments. Raise your hands on Zoom if you're still figuring out how to do that feature. You should be able to do it. There we go. We got one. Lisa wants it. Yes. Anyone else in Facebook? Guys with me? Guys with me? Lisa's with me. Okay. Yeah. Who wouldn't want that credit, right? Obviously. Now, here's the next cold hard truth. Between AP World History, AP US History, and AP European History, 1 million students will take this exam. Nicole, thank you. She wants her kid to earn some credits. Over 1 million students are going to take these exams each and every year. It's actually close to about 1.2 million, just so you know. 50% of these students will fail this exam, meaning not earn credit, not earn a score of a 3, 1s and 2s, okay? And only 10% average, this year we saw a skew upward, last year was a skew downward. Average 10% of students out of that million are going to earn 5s, and a 15% more average will earn a score of a 4, which means only 25% of the nation earn those top scores that get that college credit. Now, there are state schools that accept 3s, but I say the 4 is a safe bet. First thing, Mom, no worries. What if my student has an A in the class? First thing I need you guys to understand is that your grade in the class, especially for the history course, does not matter. It has no direct correlation with your exam score. I know that sounds nuts, but it's true. Because obviously 50%, more than 50% of these students that took this exam were probably A students. Okay, most of the classes, and that's what we're going to get into here, are not aligned with the exam. So there is a big gap in what is taught and what is assessed, and that's what I'm going to show you tonight. And statistically speaking, year over year, the hardest AP exams to pass are these. This is the top 10. 5 of the classes that we offer test prep for, ironically, social studies classes, are in the top 10 hardest classes to pass each and every year. How can that be? And the most popular AP courses, 3 out of the top 6 we offer as well. AP Psychology is probably coming up down the pipe, and I'm going to get some AP English, but these AP US History, AP World History, AP Government, most popular courses and hardest courses to pass in exam-wise. Here are the score distributions from 2022. The scores are out for 2023, but they don't have this nice little distribution yet. That should be coming out shortly. But if you look nationwide, so starting on the left with modern world history, 62% passed, 62%, 40% failed. Going over to European history, 60% passed, 40% failed. But then we go up to the score, and then US history is the lowest, 48%. That was the same this year as well. So look, 25% got 4s and 5s on US history. A little more here, about 34% on Euro history got fours and fives. Only 80,000 students took this exam. We had 456,000 students take the US exam, and 314,000 students take the world exam, with 34% getting fours and fives. So top third, top 25, what have you, these fluctuate. More students took the exams this year as we get further and further away from the pandemic. So there's the cold hard truth that the mean scores are under a 3. The average scores are under a 3. It is more likely that your student fails the AP history exam, statistically speaking, than passes it. So why does this happen? Is every teacher terrible? No, they're not. It's just a misalignment. But I've basically broken it down into 3 main reasons, with probably one being the most important. All right, we ready? Ready for the 3 reasons why? And this is going to be the solutions here. So reason number 1, parents need to understand that the AP history exam is now a writing test, not a complete writing test, but is a primarily high-level writing test. When you look at the course breakdown, only 40% of the exam's weight comes from the multiple choice questions. That's 55 questions in 55 minutes. 60% of the exam comes from writing. There's 3 short answer questions, also known as the SAQs, and I'll get to that in a second. And then there's 2 other parts of the exam: the document-based question, the dreaded DBQ, worth a quarter of the score, 25%, and the long essay question. All 3 history courses, the exam is structured exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the content. That's the only thing that's different. So you swap out the content. Now, AP US history is a little bit more rigorous than AP World, and European history is kind of hit or miss with teachers, but there is the weighting from College Board. Okay, so you cannot pass this exam without mastering some writing. And it is heavily weighted in that because it shows a higher level, a deeper level of critical thinking. So keep that in mind. So the next free giveaway, I did this last week and it was a big hit, is our AP score calculator. Who here got a copy, or who here would like a copy of our AP score calculator? I'm gonna put it down a link. Just type calculator and I'll get you no opt-in. I'll just send you I'm just going to send you the link, because this is a good tool to have in your toolbox for when maybe your student doesn't want to practice, maybe not listening to you. So I went ahead and actually all 3 are on there: AP Government, AP Human Geography, and AP History. I'm showing AP History here, and I'm showing it with only 1 score entered. So this is an interactive tool. It's a Google Sheet. You can literally just make a copy and it's yours, free for everyone attending. It's on Facebook too. So if you're in the replay, scroll down the comments to find the link. But I did this example for a reason. You literally could get every question right on your AP history exam in the multiple choice, 55 out of 55. And if you completely negate the essays or you bomb the essays, you're not passing the exam because of how it's weighted. Ironically, or coincidentally, consequently, I probably should say, you can miss 20 points on the multiple choice. And if you knock the essays out of the park, you can actually pass. Not only will pass, you can get a 4 or 5 potentially. It's all how you calculate it. So that's free for you. Play around with it. You want to input the score in My Score. And so, whether or not you choose to work with us, completely fine. That's not a big deal. Just so you know, I do recommend in the welcome post getting a exam prep book. I recommend 5 Steps to a 5, but the one we use in our course is that and the Princeton Review. Any course really that has practice multiple choice, if you're looking at prep books for the year, you want to get something that has full-length exams, especially all the questions, so you can practice it. And once you practice it, you can then put the score in. So definitely recommend that. But that score calculator you could have, keep in your back pocket. We give it away throughout the school year, but you have it. So going back to this, you have 60% of this exam score comes from writing. But teachers do not spend 60% of their time teaching the writing. That's where the disconnect comes. Why? Because this course is massive. There's 9 units, no matter which course you're taking. They get a pacing guide, a recommended pacing guide from College Board. They look at it, they have a panic attack, and they say, how am I going to get all this done? Keep in mind, the AP exams are usually the first 2 weeks in May, so they get an even shorter school year to cover the content. So it looks like them rushing through and making sure they cover content because the fear of them not finishing is real, and it happens. I literally coached kids last year from a couple different schools around the country who didn't even finish the curriculum. Yet we got them to pass, but they didn't finish units. They got to unit 7. They didn't finish units 8 and 9. They missed the whole 20th century. So yeah, it's important, but it's not the only thing. So if you have first year, second year teachers, if you have teachers that haven't gone to the AP Institute, or if you have old school veteran teachers who haven't updated, College Board has updated this course several times in the last decade, and it's moved away from just a content class to more of a skills-based exam. If they don't change their teaching practices, which, spoiler alert, some don't, and they just keep teaching the same thing and their exam scores don't matter, kids are going to miss out on these opportunities each and every year. I see it 100 times over, 1,000 times over. It happens. Obviously, you see the results in the scores. So why don't teachers teach writing? Why don't history teachers teach the writing for an FRQ? It seems like it's important, right? Well, usually they fall into one of these 5 categories of what I found. So if you think of a different one and want to let me know, please do. But this is generally what I see. They don't know how to teach writing. History teachers aren't writing teachers. I had to become one and how to learn because of the nature of the course, but you're not specifically taught how to teach writing in history teaching school, social studies teaching school. Furthermore, if they don't know how to teach writing, they usually don't know how to evaluate writing, which is a very important skill. They don't know how to give proper feedback or consistent feedback that's meaningful. And the excuse, I guess, is I don't have time to teach the writing, or I don't have time to grade writing. It is time consuming. Nabila used to joke all the time about what order of exams am I going to get to hers? She was a very good writer by the end, so I kind of used hers as the benchmark. But yeah, grading 150 papers over a reasonable time to give feedback, it's a lot. So teachers don't always do this. And then the other thing, the assumption, like going back to our travel baseball players, is they assume you already know how to write. So to my parents of athletes out there, can you expect your parent or your student to be great? Can you expect your student athlete to be great at a sport if they don't practice, if they don't spend time getting coached? A lot of parents probably watching. If you're a student athlete, you probably are involved in some kind of travel sport or extra coaching or whatever. Why? To get better, right? Yes. Raise your hands if your kid is a travel athlete or you get extra coaching. Let me know. Gotta be someone on here. Maybe? No? Participation. Come on. It's okay. Okay. Oh, we got one. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. I'm sure there is more. But yes, right? We invest time, we invest money on extra coaching for our kids, for our student athletes to get it. If we don't teach how to do this, students won't do it. I learned that lesson from the coach who hired me at Fairfax County. Miles ahead of any coach I've ever had the pleasure of working with. If we have expectations for so in that case it was baseball players, if we want our kids to perform this way and we don't teach it, how can we reinforce it? Really good life lesson for parents too. I don't practice all the time when I teach, but if you can't get angry at your kid for not doing something if you didn't teach it, right? So if we are expecting our kids to be high-level writers for this exam and we spend no time teaching it or no time evaluating it, how can we reasonably expect that they will do well? That assumption is a false. So how do we solve this? So for AP history specifically, you have to master 3 different writing styles. So this webinar is going to be recorded. It'll be on Facebook, but if you want to take some notes down, pretty cool if you can have that conversation with your kid this year, either the school year started or throughout the school year. Ask them these questions. If you don't work with us, not a big deal again, but like keep in mind that you need to at least know what the heck is going on, because chances are they might not know what's going on. And it's okay to be an informed parent and ask your kids. And if you don't see it, then ask the teacher, right? Because this is what they're going to have to do. So the first thing you have to master for AP history is the SAQ, the short answer question. I'm using an AP Euro past exam for it. It's what I had handy. The questions look very similar to AP World and AP US. So I'm going to show you what the question looks like and how I break it down. These are my writing guides that I use in my private coaching course. If you want all of them, I'm going to give them away probably one last time this year before we start charging a very low fee for them. But we integrate it into all of our coaching and kind of like standardized teaches how to teach the writing. So if you want them, just type in an FRQ either into the comments or on Zoom. If you can throw me something in the webinar chat or question, let me know. I will send it to you privately. I'm not really advertising it because, again, I'm going to start charging for them out in the internet, but like very low fee, by the way. But these are really good to get started in how to frame the writing. So you see that the SAQ question here starts with a quote from a historian. This is from the Russian Revolution. And then there's 3 questions, A, B, and C. This question is worth 3 points. And if you looked back on your AP score calculator, SAQ1 has a multiplier of 3.3. So technically they're worth 9.9 composite points total. They have to get to 107 to get a 5. So it's worth a good chunk of points. It's basically like getting this right is worth like getting 9 questions right on the multiple choice. But so one question would go in 1A, describe one piece of evidence that would support the author's characterization, so on and so forth. They have to have a 3-part answer, a 3 to 4 sentence answer. They have to directly answer the question, they have to provide evidence, and then they have to elaborate, expand, or provide analysis on it. They have to do that consistently. It's the first skill they have to write with. It's probably the most practiced writing skill in their class, or at least it should be. But the SAQs are pretty straightforward. If your son or daughter took AP Human Geography, it's a little bit more complex than the FRQ from there, but it's pretty straightforward. But a lot of kids leave easy points on the table because they don't answer all 3 of these with 4 sentences. You have to write 4 sentences for each, or 3 to 4 sentences each, or they don't have a plan to write them. And so the average score on the SAQ is a 1 out of 3 instead of a 3 out of 3. So easy points left on the table. That can add up really quick. That's over 27 points that you can do. Okay, so that's the SAQ. The DBQ, here's what we know about the DBQ. You have an hour to write it. It is literally 1/4 of your score. 25% of your score comes from this. 15 minutes to plan it, 45 minutes to write it. It's a higher level question, usually going to evaluate to what extent. Probably no way you could see that on here, but just giving you an idea of what it looks like. They have to break down 7 documents. They're usually primary or secondary sources on a topic. This one is about the Catholic Church for AP European history and whether it was opposed or open to new scientific ideas. And there's documents suggesting that they were and they weren't. Done by purpose. And basically they have to come up with an answer to it. So what's the beautiful thing about the DBQ and the LEQ is that there is no wrong answer as long as you can prove what you're saying is true. And for the DBQ, you have to use the documents as your evidence. So the way I teach the DBQ, and I have done specific DBQ trainings here on the channel, I will continue to offer those this year when it makes sense. This year, it probably doesn't make sense this early in the year. You have to have some content on your back belt, but just keep this in mind, right? So how I teach kids to plan for this massive essay is they have to use the time effectively, which will come into a strategy later. But we want them to be effective at annotating the document. So when they read the documents, they're not just reading it for casual reading, they're reading it for purpose.
So this question, evaluate to which the progressive movement fostered political change in the United States from 1890 to 1920. That's the wrong question. I pulled the guide from something else, but it was also evaluate whether the Catholic Church was opposed or open to new ideas in science. So let's just say that was the question. So they would have to look at those documents and break them down and summarize them by asking, how does this document help answer the question? So when they summarize, they're basically reformatting what the quotes are or what the written word is into their synthesis of summarizing what it means, right? And then they have to explain point of view, purpose, situation, and their audience. They have to do that 3 times. They have to summarize. They have to use 6 documents. I teach them to use 7. They have to provide some outside evidence. And then they have to form a thesis, provide background knowledge and contextualization. And they have to use a thesis. So how I teach this is to hack it, right? Breaking it down to repeatable tasks that basically it's automatic. Every time I see a DBQ, I don't care how much history you know, as long as you know something a little bit about it, you can come up with a response that gets you a lot of the points because the rubric is hackable. So that's kind of the basic breakdown right there. And then we go into teaching the body paragraphs. And so that's using assertions, which we teach in our course, that should align with your thesis, and documents and explanation. This is all kind of technical and a lot. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. We do hours of training on DBQ. But just to give you an idea that this is a complex level writing assessment, so it requires a lot of teaching, a lot of practice. Usually teachers assign it as like an assignment or a project or like a week-long thing. It's not realistic, but if they don't spend time actually teaching the process, it's really a moot point. And then finally, there's the LEQ. And the LEQ is you have a choice of answering 1 out of 3 questions, usually open to like evaluate the most significant in this effect of something, something, something. Really, it's a similar open-ended question, but this time they're providing the proof, right? So how we do that is we do it differently. It's like a brainstorm. We have to identify the question, underline the action verb, identify the historical thinking skill, because that's all part of the rubric. And then really don't answer a question that you don't know anything about. Answer a question that you can think of some specific proof for. So we teach that. We tell them, write down as much proof as they know, connect that with explanation, and then start to build their essay through that. It's very similar to the DBQ after that. Again, we do a whole separate LEQ training. We could spend hours on this, teaching it more than you need to know, but you need to know that these 3 things that we just went over are account for 60% of their total score. So the number 1 reason students fail, writing. But writing is an iterative process. It involves feedback loops. So it's not only enough to teach the writing, you have to get proper feedback on it. So if no one is reviewing the writing, you're not going to get good results giving you feedback. So the second thing I see why kids fail is content misalignment. So obviously we don't want our kids failing the course, but I challenge the rigor of the assessments, especially multiple choice. This is a screenshot of a 2019 AP World exam. It has gotten a little bit harder since then, but the question's very similar. This is typically what you'll see on an AP exam in the 55 questions of 55 minutes. There's a picture with a title and a caption, and then there's 4 questions based on that. And you notice none of it is specific, like what period is this? It's the artist's perspective on the subject of the painting was most likely influenced by which of the following: the Enlightenment, nationalism, social Darwinism, the Haitian Revolution. So you have to know context and apply it here, right? So it is a higher level skill than just basic multiple choice. So reason 2, content misalignment. What are you practicing? Again, you practice like you play. Most AP classes, the way I see the kids that we work with, there's a lot of memorization, there's a lot of understanding, remembering, right? They're taking endless notes, they're watching lectures. A lot of kids want to be lectured to. How is that learning? That's lower level thinking skill. And I just showed you a picture of the exam. The exam is assessed in the top half of Bloom's up here. You're creating essays, you're evaluating things, you're analyzing things, and maybe the lowest level we get to is application. So it's applying some skills, it's analyzing, evaluating. Like that's primarily where the exam is. So if we're teaching down here, but being assessed by College Board up here, that is misalignment. What are you doing in class? So a lot of kids turn to like study.com or Quizlets or whatever for questions, but those questions aren't like College Board. The questions you practice that really help you for the exam have to align with College Board. So if, again, another caveat, working with us, regardless, the best thing you can do for your kid is invest $20 and buy them a test prep book just so that they can see the questions, right? Now, obviously they have to do it and practice and hold them accountable to it, but like, that's like number one thing, because you'd be surprised of how little they actually see of the test questions. So here's a caveat. This is from before AP was revised multiple times since 2015. The study was done prior to that. I'm sorry. The AP exams have all been revised since 2018, 2019. But like they found in an earlier study back in 2006, Harvard and Virginia did a study that AP courses do not significantly contribute to success in college because the AP teachers only focused on memorization of facts. AP College Board has shifted this because of this study. There is more skill-based test, and yet teachers haven't shifted. So that's a problem. So we actually practice how the exam will be, kind of like practicing like you play, makes sense. And then our final reason for tonight, okay? Thank you all for sticking with me so far. Hope you're getting some value out of this. No problem. Like, let me know in the comments if this is valuable, if this is helping. Would love some feedback as well. But the last reason we're talking about is time management, time implementation, and time stagnation. Okay, so we actually covered this in our course with our private students this past week. So we looked at approaches to reading, approaches to writing, approaches to note-taking. Some teachers require one type of note-taking. We taught 4 different types that are applicable to various situations, but chances are your teachers are not Peter says in the comments, I appreciate the feedback, Peter. Thank you. So chances are your teacher, your AP history teacher, is not going to spend time. We already talked about writing, right? So that's we've already checked that off. But they're not going to spend a lot of time teaching how to read, and obviously not like literally how to read, but like how to read the textbook effectively and how to take notes. They just have these expectations, but they don't teach it. Lisa said, thanks, great info. Thank you, Lisa, I appreciate it. So they don't spend the necessary time doing this. So then kids don't know how to do it. So what ends up happening, I'm a huge movie buff, so just FYI, it's kind of a disease. The Book of Eli, Denzel Washington's character, he's blind, and like religious books are outlawed in the post-apocalyptic world, but like he ends up repeating the entire Bible from memory. Someone transcribes it because it's the only Bible in the world. It's the end of the story. Spoiler alert, sorry. The 10-year-old movie, so you should probably see it. But a lot of kids, my point is a lot of kids end up just copying the textbook. They don't know how to take notes. What is the point of copying a textbook? What is the point of watching a lecture and transcribing it? It's not. You need to learn how to teach notes. Now, we have various strategies. Every kid is unique. It's very personalized, right? I can say that this strategy is the most effective for me, but if it's not applicable to you, it doesn't really matter. So you have to have a variety of sets in your toolboxes and what makes sense for you. I liked outline style note taking, my personal favorite, but some kids like Cornell notes, some kids like drawing a diagram. So we go over those approaches, and really we want kids to be able to be malleable to what makes the most sense and know that there is a purpose behind note taking, right? Okay, so that's time management, time implementation. Here's what I mean by that. If you're not practicing these exams, if you're not practicing the essays, specifically the essays, but also the multiple choice, if you're not practicing it in the time limits, so you have 40 minutes to answer 3 SAQs, you have 60 minutes to answer the DBQ, 40 minutes to answer the LEQ, and 55 minutes and 55 questions for multiple choice. If you're not practicing that, What are you doing? I've seen DBQs given assignments for the entire week. That's not realistic. Anyone can write a DBQ in a week. Can you write a DBQ in 45 minutes? So another thing to keep in mind is now that you have some knowledge on what the writing is, take note of what the timers are. And if you can't take note or can't take a screenshot of this or don't have a place to take notes, want to watch the replay, College Board has all of this. All you have to do is go to the specific exam and look at the exam link, break down this. So kids need to practice these questions under the time limits. The earlier they start, the better they are. Okay? Time implementation. And then time stagnation. I don't know if this is this is the appropriate use of the word. I just kind of keep the common theme of time, right? Time stagnation. Why we help student athletes? Because all time is limited. There's 9 units, only 8 shown on here. If your school is like mine and you have travel sport, your kids are leaving just a regular public school or private school to go travel to play a sport, and their classes are in the afternoon, they might miss class time. Or, they might miss out on opportunities to study the book or review the notes or whatever, but they miss time. That time adds up really quickly. Again, information is given like a fire hose. Like the first unit for AP US history, 5 instructional hours. So missing one, what's that? 20% of unit 1 is missed if it's actually paced out correctly. And most of the time it's not. They're spending less time than the recommended time. So missing class, missing instruction, falling behind, like that is a problem. And so you end up having huge gaps in your learning, and we don't know where it came from. Just look at how AP US is weighted. So unit 1 and 2 is weighted a little bit less, but if you miss the middle part of the year, like you should be at unit 3 probably by November. I'm not looking at my pacing guides right now, but just based on working backwards, yeah, probably past unit 3 by then. But your score, majority of your score is coming from your knowledge of unit 3 through unit 8. So missing class or having a game on one of the days you have to take notes or study, whatever, as a parent of a student athlete, how much valuable time is, right? I'm laughing because I have way to make a decision on it. Should both of our daughters in 2 different grades play softball at the same time? It could be a logistical nightmare for us. But one was like, I'm not a softball girl. I just want to dance. Awesome. You're going to dance on Wednesday. My daughter's going to play softball on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sweet. They're 5 and 7. So it works out for us. But time divided, especially if you have multiple kids, like it's a lot, right? So they're not spending hours and hours of time looking at the books, which not a great use of time anyways. But missing that time is big. It creates big gaps. So what ends up happening is kids enter the learning pit. Now, learning pit's actually used in a positive way here because we all have to get in the learning pit to have a deeper understanding of learning, of something, of knowing something. So we don't know something. We don't know what to do. Why do I need to know this? We enter the learning pit. And then eventually we get out of it, hopefully, in the proper time, right? Either we get help or we have some ideas, we start experimenting, we try, and then we figure out we can do it, right? Everyone goes into the learning pit differently, comes out differently. It's all different cycle. But if you have these giant gaps in complex understandings, you might enter several learning pits that you might never get out of because you really only have one chance to get this right. So on the last day of our intro classes for our private students this summer, it was kind of a warm-up on-ramp, we called it. We talked about 2 mindsets, growth mindset and fixed mindset. It comes back to applying to the writing, right? Everyone has experienced fixed mindset and growth mindset for various things. If you've ever said, I'm not good at math, if you've ever said, I'm not good at writing, you ever said, I'm not handy, I'm not this, I'm not that, that is a fixed mindset. No one is good at anything the first time they try it, and that's probably a double negative. So English teachers, sorry. But it's using negative things like I don't know or I am not. You're manifesting a fixed mindset. You'll never be good, right? That's not true. You just require practice. Everyone is different when it comes to requiring practice. So when we taught IB, going back to that intro thing, we started practicing writing day one, actually day two, because we wanted to know, hey, doesn't matter where you are. You're the good writer, you're bad writer, whatever. We're going to take you from where you are. And we're going to make you better. So having that growth mindset, embracing the challenges. So they've already employed growth mindset as an athlete. Wherever your kid is right now, ability level, I'm sure they weren't that good always, right? They started somewhere and they grew. So that same approach has to be taken for the AP course, especially if this is the first time. Is that doesn't matter if you're a good writer or bad writer. It doesn't matter where you're at. You have to have, I'm going to get better with practice. Doing nothing, you're going to continue to be bad. Yeah, obviously. So that's a growth mindset. So the whole lesson is the sooner you start, the faster you master. And I just realized that rhymed. Need to copyright that. But the sooner you start, the faster you master. So love, I'm tragically that love Kobe Bryant, tragically lost way too soon, but it's not about spending hours of time practicing, like work harder, not smarter. He always talked about being present during the practice. So he was famous for saying that my practices are going to be harder than the game because I want the game to be easy. I want the game to feel like I'm so much better than everyone else. So if you're not practicing like you're going to play, if you're not going to practice at a higher level than what you're going to be assessed, probably not ready for game time. So, been talking a while. Thank you all for staying with me right now. I'm going to a couple more minutes. Just bear with me. Really appreciate everyone on the live stream. We've been going over an hour. Obviously, I could talk about this a lot more. Just the diagram there, where the tip of the iceberg. There's a ton more to this. So start getting ready your questions. But I do have that invitation for you. Just want to go over the offer briefly. Again, no obligation, just so you know what we offer, because we do obviously help students. So how many of you would like your student athlete to implement our system into their AP history course this year? Raise your hands if you're interested, or give us a like. We got one, maybe two. We got two. Okay, cool. All right. So let's see what that looks like, right? So what we did is we took a lot of feedback from test prep and we said, what if, so there's learning pits, right? Love working with kids at every stage of the game, but I have found that the kids that work with us the longest do the best. The shocker. So what if we could avoid the learning pits altogether? What if we could just get them up to speed with the writing all year so they never fall behind, and then come time for test prep, they accelerate. We just perfect their craft. That's the idea of the full year mastermind. So here's what it looks like. We just finished on-ramp. Peter's still on the channel. He's given us some really nice compliments. His daughter was a part of it. Shout out. So she was part of on-ramp. We basically covered the why, the what, and the how of the AP courses, introducing them to various thinking skills and writing strategies. So it's a really good jump off point for our AP students to go through, almost like an orientation, because oftentimes it doesn't happen in their class. But the core part of what our masterclass looks like is that we have 2 live training classes each week. It varies depending on subject, but for AP histories, it's 2 live training classes right now every week. Human geography and government will eventually be 2. It's 1 right now. But how we do that is we paste out all the curriculum based on the AP course guide. So we have 36 weeks of instruction, live instruction with AP history teachers. And they cover hard, difficult concepts in AP history each and every week. Allow kids to chew on it, allow to go deeper, allow to get those gaps closed on the content. And then on Thursdays, we do a writing workshop. So now they get a ton more practice. So if you're a fan of Grant Cardone, 10X, like the idea is that they're going to have so much more practice, kind of like Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was like notorious 2 practices a day, 3 practices a day. I'm just going to get better through compound interest. They're going to have so much better understanding of the writing, so much more practice hours under the belt, that they're going to excel their classes with their peers. So that's the writing workshop will be aligned to that. So, it's live training, live classes each and every week. If you can't make it, they're recorded. So you still get a ton of value. And well, I want to get feedback from teachers. Awesome. We have on-demand support through our Slack channels. So all of our teachers are on a Slack channel with your student, and all of the students are in a Slack channel and a community channel in that course with other students. So they can get unlimited support. All they got to do is ask for it. It's awesome. We could share resources. They can bring their homework, their challenges to us, and we can help them. That's the whole idea, is this community. We also offer a resource database. So how many of you have searched the internet for resources, specifically for an AP course? Maybe, maybe not. You don't need to. We're just going to curate all the best resources and build that with them in their course. So they have that. They don't need to search. So if they don't want to go back to the textbook, they have all that stuff. So they get that all year. Pretty awesome. And then our signature offer, they have a full test prep curriculum. So it's mostly what we focused on last year. The whole masterclass is different now with this year, but basically what we'll do is in January, February, we sit down with you as a family, your son or daughter, and we map out a custom review plan based on their schedule and based on where they want to be. Following our core review curriculum, it's comprehensive content review. We go over all the FRQs, the how-tos, and we practice the exam scoring. We use predicted exam scoring methods using our AP score calculators. All the while, we give you personalized feedback. We're working on the writing skills. And what's really cool is what's part of our exam ready guarantee is we don't leave you after you've done a couple tests until you're comfortable, until you can confidently say, I'm going to crush this exam. That's when we'll be like, you're good, you're ready to go. A lot more to it than that, but that's the core offer. So that is a one-on-one test prep coach when you need it in the spring, on top of the group course that's supporting your course year round. And a couple bonuses. So like I said, you get 3 practice exams with the course, but we'll do more if you're not ready. And we use that AP score calculator. We see where you're at. We give you honest feedback. So if you need 4 or 5, 6 practice exams graded by us, giving you feedback, growing to get ready to crush the exam, no problem. We do paid trainings throughout the year on this group. You get all of that for free. We buy all the test prep materials for you. I'm available to do one-on-one consultations with you as needed. So you still have access to me throughout the year. And then what's really cool, what's something we're adding in and expanding on is not everyone had a parent tell me how expensive a college consultant was just to spend 1 hour with them. So we're adding a free hour with a independent educational consultant, but also a high school counselor, my colleague Terry. She's already met with a couple of our parents, been really impactful hours. She does have a whole program that work with her, but she loves working with student athletes because she's a hockey mom. So her program is much more affordable, and you're still getting the same level of college consulting that you would from a $5,000, $10,000 program for significantly less. Regardless if you want to do that or not, she gives you an hour to map you out an admissions audit, plan for college essays, whatever, however you want to use her. She's there as an extra resource and a second or third opinion. So you get all of that. That's everything that's included with our offer. So if you're interested, there is a guarantee that if you qualify to work with us, we guarantee that your student will be 100% ready and able to score 5 on their AP exam, or we will coach them one-on-one till free. So basically, they will know, they will feel like they are able to get it. They will be able to see the results of getting a 5 on the AP exam through the work that we do, the practice exams, guaranteed, right? So they will know how to do it. They will go in with that confidence of being able to do it. The whole idea is reducing the test anxiety 100% and make them ready to crush the exam. That's the guarantee there. So we will do it as much as we need to one-on-one until they are there. So if you're ready, I just opened up some spots on my calendar to connect, but space is very limited. So all it is an invitation to have a little bit deeper call just to see, where you're at, what you're looking for, what you're interested in. I'm going to drop it into the chat if you're on the webinar. I'm going to drop it into the comments. So space is limited. I only open I think 4 days. I don't have any morning spots right now, but so just to kind of go through it, you click on the link, click on the link, just give me a couple details. It is just a 5 to 10 minute call just to see where you're at. If you're interested, you give us a couple other pieces of information about who you are, what class, what's the goal score. Takes about a minute to fill out. So, and we're not talking about offer. We're going to talk about what you thought. Would this be a good fit for them? Would it be better to maybe refer you somewhere else? Completely free call. It's an invitation to work with us. No obligation. So if you are interested, go ahead and book that call, especially if you're on webinars, because the spots will probably fill up pretty quickly. And I will take, once the Zoom ends, you don't have access to the link. So thank you all for staying with us right now. And as promised, Q&A time. So drop me a comment on Facebook if you're still with us. We have a couple still with us, or drop me a question in the Q&A on the webinar, and I'll be happy to answer it. I really appreciate you sticking with us for it this whole time. Hopefully that was helpful. I would love to answer any questions you might have regarding any of this or anything related to college consulting or what have you. Any questions? Any clarifying comments you had about how the AP exam is structured? Was this beneficial to you in your upcoming year? Hopefully it was. Audience participation kind of dwindling right now. So I'm going to then jump off if there's no questions. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you those that are participating. I appreciate your time. I know this was a long one. Lisa, you're welcome. Looking forward to talking with you. So Lisa's going to schedule a call. Anyone else would love to chat with you. Again, there's no obligation to work with us. It's just, can we help you? Even if we can just give you some additional free resources, would be great. So would love to have the opportunity to chat. But if there's no other questions, I'm going to jump off here. It's 9:15 Eastern. So really appreciate your time. Looking forward to connecting with you. We will have more live streams on the next couple of weeks, right? We're going to be going into a little deeper, but really appreciate everyone. Have a good night. Oh, one more thing. Our webinar is announced right now. Let me stop sharing my screen here. So I'll put that link in the comments. Our $1 million AP History Secrets writing guide is going to be writing secrets. I'm sorry. $1 million AP History writing secrets. So what we talked about today scratches the surface, but if you want to attend a private webinar that will not be on Facebook, we're not going to broadcast it on Facebook. It's going to be more intimate so that you don't have to worry about other people listening. Only those are live, but we're going to give away all those writing guides we talked about. We're going to give you more resources for free, and those that attend will get have a chance to get a free iPad. Actually, I'll probably give away 1 or 2 iPads. So that's going to be August 23rd at 8 o'clock. We'll go a little bit deeper into what we have. So if you're interested, I have about 55 people express interest. We're only going to open up 100 spots, so space is limited. So how that works is there's basically some background questions. It's double entry so that it prevents spammers. And then there's a webinar link. So there's this private Zoom webinar link. If you're interested in joining us for the $1 million AP writing secrets, where I actually go into detail on how to do those things with providing you the writing guides, that will be August 23rd. So would look forward to seeing you there. Hopefully we get some other people to attend. We'll get the 55 people on there. But that is it for the night. Thank you everyone for being here, and have a good night.